We never know what we're going to get when we start here, right? So, hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Lunch Money. This is the only podcast where we tell you what your CRO should be telling you, but for whatever reason that person doesn't. I am Scott Schnaars.
And this is also the podcast where we are trying to bring you what really the best of the best are actually doing and how they do it, so you can do it too. I'm Edan Gottlib, and today we're going to be diving into one of the favorite sales boondoggles that people know, the proof of concept. Or some of us know it as the 6 weeks to 6 months of free trial with no commitment.
So let's start with this. Like, why do clients even ask for a POC, or why do prospects even ask for a POC? And we're very quickly going to get into one of the best things that I've learned in my time knowing Edan. But the most obvious answer is just simply that they're not convinced that you have the right solution for them, and they want to test your claims. They're looking for proof that your solution actually works in their own world and not just on your website or in your pitch deck or in your fancy demo that you have. They actually need to see proof that it's going to work specifically for them.
Yeah. And it's also a way for them to try to de-risk the deal or the situation for them politically, professionally. If they got internal skeptics, if they are worried about the budget, the POC feels like the safest bet for them to go forward. So it's also often the code for we don't have a full buy-in yet, so we need to do something to try to get this going. So really, if we talk about action items, first thing you want to do is before you agree to any POC, start by asking kind of, what are you trying to prove with this POC? And if they can't give you a very clear and concise answer, then don't start one. Go figure that one first.
And that nugget is one of the best things that I've ever learned from you, and it saved me a ton of time and aggravation working on proof of concepts there. So if you take anything away from this one episode, it's what concept are you trying to prove? And if they can answer that, then great, you've got something. And if they stare at you like you got three heads, then you're probably not working on a good use of a POC time. But let's call it I think there's a question of whether or not POCs are good or are they bad. And I'll go first. I personally, I don't like them. I do think that they're a bit of a lazy way out of a real sales cycle. You'll find that they delay deals, they create all this free work, and most of the time they're not even tied to like a really clear success criteria that a seller is going to need. But that being said, over the years, I've learned how to deal with POCs and what the right responses are. I still think that they're generally not a good use of time, but Edan, you've always been the more pragmatic one of the two of us. What do you think about this?
So I'll push back a little bit about not being useful.
As I would expect.
I think they can work, but there are two critical conditions that must be met for this to work. Otherwise, you're screwed. One is you have to understand what do they need out of it. What is it? You talked about that there's other reasons for it, but what do you really need out of it? And the second one is you have to control the scope. If there's a success plan, if there's an executive alignment, and if you know what needs to happen after this, great. Otherwise, you're just going to have an unpaid consulting gig that's going to go nowhere. So again, action item oriented. Before you agree to anything, you're going to ask, what happens if this POC is successful? Or what will take it from here? You pointed out my best question is that what concept are you trying to prove in the proof of concept? And really, there are only three things that people are trying to prove with the proof of concept. Number one would be, is this product actually going to work? Number two, am I going to be using it? And number three, is it, I need to build a case for somebody else to approve it or to get a buy-in, and I'm going to use this process to try and build it because I don't have one. So this is it. There's only three scenarios of why POC needs to happen or why people want to do it.
I think those are really great action items for sellers, and I hope that somebody rewinds this and writes that down and starts running with these. I think that the idea of a proof of concept, it has to come up for every single seller every single day, somewhere in the world that somebody's dealing with this. So let's say you are a seller and the prospect brings up a proof of concept. Like, what do you do? And the advice that I give to people is like, you don't flinch. You don't say, oh, okay, let's do a POC. And you go off to crazy land here. I think like the important thing the way to answer that is you have to say, look, number one, we're happy to talk about it. We're not going to be hard to do business with, but we're happy to talk about proof of concept. But let's, as Edan said, let's really align on what it is that we're trying to prove. Let's talk about who's involved in that and what the decision process is going to look like after that proof of concept is completed.
Yeah, because otherwise, the second you say, oh, let's do a POC without any kind of these constructs or conditions or then you hand it off control and you basically said, sure, let's go run an unpaid project and hope you like it or something will come out of it. And then you have the two of you, you and the prospect, trying to figure out how to get to a destination with no real map or directions, just a few concepts, and you're just going to try to navigate your way through. Not the best or most efficient way to get to what you're trying to do, because both of you, we assume, have the intention to try to get this done.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. And I think if I were going to take an action item out of this section, Edan, what I would talk about is, you do not accept a proof of concept until there is a success criteria. Like, a proof of concept isn't a free trial. There needs to be success criteria tied to it. There has to be a clear timeline. Like, this can't be an open-ended evaluation too. Like, there has to be some kind of timeline attached to it. You need to have an executive sponsor. Your POC is going to have somebody senior supporting it. Because again, this isn't a trial. Like, we're trying to prove something to someone that has budget. And then after the POC is over, you have to have a decision path. When you have all of these wrapped up, that should give you the clear post path proof of concept. Man, that's a tough one to say. But you have to ensure that you've got your decision process or your decision path in place before you even begin this idea of a proof of concept for a prospect.
And by the way, you bring up a good point. We didn't clarify yet, and then we were talking about this episode as well. The difference between a proof of concept and a free or a trial, whether a free or not. And I think it's an important distinction between everything, on the trial basis, everything is kind of well defined and you got a scope and you try and get out in kind of the real world to see that you're getting the results you want or the experience you want or whatever it is. Versus a proof of concept, where you say, I have a concept here that I think something might work and I'm trying to prove that it's worth taking a bet on it. So it's a very different place to go about it. But back to your action item, I think, and this great list, and for me, it all goes back to, can you answer the three critical questions? Is it does it work? Can I use it? Or is it, I'm trying to build a case so somebody else will get on board or approve it? If you're missing the ability to answer this question or any of the 4 or 5 you just outlined, Scott, then hit pause. Do not continue, because it's not going to be good for either of you.
So let's hit on a big one, and that's, should sellers accept a proof of concept at all? And I get it. Sometimes you're going to have to do it. But I think most reps say yes way too fast. And they say yes way too fast because in a lot of cases, they're not the ones that have to do the work. They just kind of go like, well, yeah, proof of concept sounds great. Like, I'll let my SE deal with it, or I'll let our tech support team deal with it. I don't have to deal with it. So let's just create free work. But instead of doing that, because it does create free work for a lot of people, and even if the seller's not feeling that pain, other people are, instead of just saying yes to a POC, why not just try to convert it into a paid pilot? And, you can say, hey, we don't really do proof of concepts, but we do paid pilots. And that way, that allows us, because these are expensive, it allows us to assign the right resources so that you can get the real customer experience. And that way, if you're going to do a POC, you always make sure that it's a paid pilot. You always make sure it's well defined on your end. And then you have all the criteria that's already written up. And part of your pitch is that everybody knows what to do and when. So you say, hey, we have a paid pilot program. It's X number of dollars. Here's everything that you're going to get. Here's the timeline. Here's the expectations you should get out of that. And all of that is all packaged up, almost like a deal that then converts into more of a full-term, 12-month, 36-month, whatever it might be, full-term deal after that paid pilot ends.
Yep. And I want to emphasize something here. This is not about the money. Now, you guys know we like money, but this is not about the money. Really, this is about the commitment. This is about being serious. This is about, can they actually pull it through? Do they have the power? Do they have the authority that they projected that they have? And if you're not even willing to pay for a fraction, or even later, if you even waive it, it's like you got to go through the process. Then you're not there. You're not in a place that the POC could actually work well. Now, a few tips about the different scenarios we talked about. I go back to kind of my 3, right? If they're trying to do this proof of concept for, does it work? Leverage other customer stories and say, hey, you don't need to do it. We got to have, 100, 300, 10,000 customers already, so it's going to work. If your concern is how we're going to use it, tell similar success stories. Say, look at these companies, look at how they're using it. You got the same profile. You don't need to go spend this amount of time and this amount of money to go prove something that you've already proven. And if it's about justification, tell stories about companies that have missed out. They've built these old big cases and try to justify to the executives only to end up getting deprioritized. So figure out exactly what needed to get stuff done. And it might not be a POC really that you need to do it in order to justify it. So kind of combine these things. And again, based on what they're really trying to mitigate the risk, run the right play and you can mitigate it. And again, the money barrier just helps you carry that conversation forward because all of a sudden it's something needs to get done and they need to do something on their side. It's not about making or taking money out of it or even covering your expenses.
Yeah. So the fourth action item, then I guess coming off of that, the fourth action item I would say is always offer a paid pilot first. And if they say no, then you can dig in and find out, hey, is it because of the budget? Is it because of risk? Is it just not urgent enough for you? Like, you're qualifying them as much as they're trying to qualify you during this process. And for a lot of companies, like, a free proof of concept is like a way to get the salesperson off the phone and for them not to have to do anything. So really dig into that.
And also, if this whole paying upfront helps you figure out really which of the risks they're trying to mitigate. And most of the time, 95% of the time, if they can't do the pay, it's probably number 3. It's probably they're trying to build a justification case for somebody else.
So, all right, so let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about how a company should manage their proof of concepts. And I think this is where, in my experience, this is where I see most organizations mess this up because there's no standard process. There's no tracking of the POC. There's no conversion rate. There's no owner. People are like, hey, we want to try a POC. And then it just kind of goes off into this graveyard of good intentions here. And, I think companies need to sit down and look at like what their process is for these proof of concepts or these paid pilots and really start to document them very well.
Yeah, it goes back to kind of the basics. You need to have a playbook. Somebody needs to own POCs. You have to have a template of, what is success and how does it look like and how do you track it. You have to track conversion rates just like anything else in your sales process and what the combination, what you did and how it got converted. This is big. It's an important item. It's an expensive item. It takes a lot of time and prolongs your process. So you want to put even a limit on the number of POCs that you could be open at once. Sometimes creating that kind of scarcity brings value and say, we can only run 4 of them. Do you want to sign it? Great. This is how much the fee. Play with this as part of of the tools you have to progress the process and secure the process, not to just satisfy and ask or try to continue going forward. So I think our next or action item 5, I think this one is, right? Build a playbook, right? What are the entry criteria for a POC, right? What is the approval process to get one? What is the standard, create a standard success template. So they will know and we will know how to demonstrate and communicate the success later on. And metrics, win rate, time to convert, ACVs, post POC, everything that you have, go track it all to see how well it performs for you.
I really like the idea of the scarcity equaling value on that. And if you limit the number of POCs that you can do, it's easy to just say, like, look, we've already got 5 of them that are going. We cap it out at 5 because these require a lot of resources. We can probably squeeze you in 6 weeks. Do you want to get in on that? And then that creates a level of urgency in the deal where, maybe they go, we don't really need a POC after all because we got to get this thing going. I like that idea of the scarcity of the POC quite a bit.
Yep. And yeah, go ahead.
I was going to kind of go into our final point here, but I'll let you kind of fill in the blanks on that one.
No, go ahead.
All right. So, I guess in closing, like, if you are a seller and you've just started your POC 2 weeks ago and you're halfway through it, like, let's talk about how do you manage this like a real professional does. And in my experience, the key to this, and this is super important, is that you actually treat it like a deal. Like, you're not calling to check in to see like how things are going with it. Like, you have to run a process on it. And so as a result, you've got to schedule weekly syncs with all the relevant stakeholders, and you've got to hold them accountable, and you've got to keep your executive sponsor up to date, and you've got to track the success metrics. Like, you have to treat this like a real project or like a real deal, and you have to close it like a real project or a real deal.
Yep. You have to keep in mind, this is, if you go for the proof of concept, it's your job to prove the concept. You're not the facilitator, you're not the support or the cheerleader. And so you need to be the one proving and showing that this is working and working for them. And so you have to stay in charge. Bring in the power users, the executives, the end users. Make sure you show value to each and every stakeholder to the spectrum of the value they're interested in. Be fast about it. Manage it. Be very strict about it. Every POC should feel like this final stage of the sales process, just like you negotiate a contract or just like you're trying to get it over the line. It's the same thing. It's not the beginning. It's not an exploration. I'll make one side comment about it. We didn't talk about it before, but some reps will use POCs as a ways to do discovery. Now, we can discuss whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. I'll put it aside for now. It is not a discovery tool, really. It is a very intense point in the process where you are mitigating all outstanding risks so you could end up at the process with a deal. That should be the next thing. You just sign, we proved all of it, just sign it. So make sure you treat it right. The confusion, it's not the beginning of the process, happens because of using POCs as a way to do discoveries. Now, you can choose to do it. We could talk about it separately. But if you're in a real POC, this is what it's for, right? To close and get you in a closing position. So in your action items, create this POC checklist for yourself and for your seller, right? Do the weekly meeting with the stakeholders. Share success documents and keep up to date. Demo or review results for everybody. Clear handoffs to procurement, legal. What happens next? How do we get out of this stage? And the most important thing, this gives you also the ability to include the executives and the decision makers in both at the kickoff, so they will know this is what we're going to prove, and once we prove it, you guys are going to buy it. And then at the end, when we come in and say, hey, we proved it, ta-da, let's buy it. So it's really be on top of it, run it. It's an important part if you do it. So after my little rant here. Necessary evil or a sales trap? God.
Man, I don't know. It's probably both. I tend to fall into like mostly a trap, but it's not a trap if you can take total control of the situation, right? If you own the POC and you're the one who's proving the concept as a seller, then it's probably a pretty good thing that can accelerate your deals.
Yep. And I think you're right about this, because this is using it the right way, you can actually accelerate your deal. If you identify clearly, this is what's going on. Here's the risk they're trying to mitigate. Here's the action. I got a well planned out playbook of how I execute this. I term it in time and money and constraint, whatever I do it so it would really work well for everybody. That could be a deal accelerator and actually even get your deal bigger. But you have to have your stuff together. And you have to be the one leading the way. This is not I'm supporting from afar thing. We talked about professionals and high performers and top players in the field. This is what they do. They have it. They'll talk about it. Sometimes they even will bring it up and say, here is, if we need to mitigate, here's how we do it, and control everything that happens. So use it to your advantage, but you have to be on top of it. This is the professional tools.
So, all right. I think that is the end of our discussion on proof of concepts. If this helped you, and you've got a friend that's stuck in proof of concept purgatory, like, send this over to him or her and let's help them out and help get them to be successful. And next time somebody asks you for a free proof of concept, like, the thing to keep in mind is, like, sometimes free things are free like a puppy, and free can get really expensive. And if you want to know my not safe for work version of that quote, send me leave us a comment in LinkedIn and I'll share it there. But thanks everybody for listening and for checking this episode out.
Yep. And you've been listening to Lunch Money with Scott and Edan. If you have any questions, anything else, feel free to ping us directly or through whatever social media, and go sell something.